For years, fans have speculated, whispered, and debated behind closed screens. Who really holds Bai Lu's heart? Who is the man behind the fame, the mystery, and the smiles that we see every day on our screens? Today, the internet stops buzzing with guesses and starts absorbing the truth. But before we reveal everything, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you are about to see will leave you stunned, and you do not want to miss the next shocking twist that follows this revelation. It all began on a seemingly ordinary afternoon. Bai Lu was attending a casual interview, her laughter lighting up the room as always, yet there was a subtle tension behind her eyes that only the most observant fans could notice. Something had shifted in the way she moved, in the way she smiled, in the careful glances she shot toward the camera crew. It was almost as if she carried a secret she could no longer hide. Rumors had swirled for months. Theories about her husband ranged from high-profile celebrities to mysterious businessmen. Every clip, every public appearance, every social media post had been dissected to the tiniest detail. But today, the veil of secrecy would finally be lifted. The first clue came from an unexpected source. A behind-the-scenes staff member, someone who had worked closely with Bai Lu for years, accidentally left a message in the wrong chat group. The message contained a photograph, one that seemed casual at first glance, yet the context was unmistakable. It showed Bai Lu and a man, their hands brushing slightly, a subtle intimacy that spoke volumes. The face was partially hidden, but fans with keen eyes noticed the resemblance, the posture, the faint smile. This was not a co-star. This was not a friend. This was someone far more personal, someone intimately connected to Bai Lu in a way that had been carefully concealed. The revelation did not stop there. Insider sources, who had remained anonymous until now, confirmed the identity. The man in Bai Lu's life, the person who had shared her quiet moments, her victories, and her heartbreaks, was none other than a figure already familiar to fans in a completely unexpected way. This man, who had always remained on the periphery of her public life, was connected to the entertainment industry, yet had skillfully kept his identity hidden. For years, fans had speculated, yet no one could have predicted the truth. The internet exploded. Social media feeds flooded with reactions ranging from shock to disbelief. Clips of Bai Lu's interviews were rewatched with obsessive intensity, as fans tried to piece together the subtle clues they had missed. Every laugh, every glance, every mention of someone special in her interviews suddenly carried new meaning. Comment sections were flooded with fans trying to reconcile the familiar face of her husband with the glamorous, public persona of Bai Lu herself. But what makes this revelation truly mind-blowing is not just the identity of the husband. It is the story behind their relationship. For years, they had managed to keep their connection hidden in plain sight, navigating the complexities of fame, privacy, and the ever-watchful eyes of the public. They shared secret moments at private gatherings, discreet outings where no cameras were allowed, and whispered conversations that no one would ever know. This was not just a marriage. This was a carefully curated secret, protected with dedication, strategy, and a love that refused to be tamed by the spotlight. Fans who thought they knew Bai Lu suddenly realized they had only seen fragments of her life. The vulnerability, the tenderness, and the quiet joy she shared with her husband had been carefully shielded, and now, that shield had finally been pierced. The man behind the smile, the confidant behind the glamour, had been revealed, and the revelation reshaped everything fans believed about her private life. The story does not end with the reveal. Questions remain. How did they manage to keep this secret for so long? How does this revelation change the way we view Bai Lu's public appearances, her interviews, and her interactions with co-stars? The intrigue, the mystery, and the drama are far from over. For those who have followed Bai Lu for years, this is a turning point. The internet is buzzing, theories are evolving, and new secrets are beginning to surface. What will happen next? Who else is connected to this hidden world? And how will Bai Lu herself respond to the global attention now that her most private life has been exposed? One thing is certain. This revelation has changed everything. Fans will never look at her the same way again. Every glance, every moment, every interaction now carries a deeper meaning. The moment the truth about Bai Lu's husband hit the internet, the world seemed to stop. Social media feeds exploded with shocked reactions, fans dissecting every frame, every interview, and every social media post she had ever made. Yet amid the chaos, Bai Lu stood calm, her gaze steady but her heart racing. She knew that this revelation would change everything, yet she also knew that the story behind the secrecy was far more intricate than anyone could imagine. Behind the cameras, her husband stepped into view. For years, he had been the quiet presence behind her public life, a figure rarely glimpsed, always carefully shielding their private moments. Now, for the first time, he faced the world openly, his identity confirmed, his role undeniable. His eyes met Bai Lu's briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. They had survived the secrecy, the rumors, and the relentless scrutiny of fans and media alike. Now, the real test had begun. The revelation did not merely shock fans, it sent ripples across the entertainment industry. Former co-stars, directors, and colleagues were all whispering, speculating, and re-evaluating the moments they had shared with Bai Lu. The man who had been behind her smiles, who had witnessed her triumphs and fears alike, was not just an ordinary figure. He was someone with influence, intelligence, and a deep understanding of the pressures that came with fame. People began to see Bai Lu in a new light, not only as a star but as a woman whose life had been carefully protected by someone she trusted completely. Bai Lu took a deep breath, stepping forward as the cameras clicked relentlessly. Her voice, steady yet filled with emotion, carried across the room. "For years, we have cherished our life in private," she said. "This has always been something sacred to us, something beyond the reach of the public eye. And now, while the world may know the truth, the bond we share cannot be broken by speculation or rumor." Her husband nodded quietly beside her, his hand brushing hers ever so slightly, a gesture unnoticed by the cameras but loaded with meaning. He had stayed hidden for so long, and yet in this moment, his presence was undeniable. The strength of their union, forged in secrecy and strengthened by love, became the unspoken story of the room. Fans across the globe rewatched old interviews, trying to pick up every subtle glance, every moment of understated emotion, every hint they had missed. Suddenly, comments and reactions took on a new depth. Every expression Bai Lu had ever made seemed to carry a secret meaning, a message meant for her husband alone. People began connecting dots they never knew existed, realizing that the private life of a celebrity could be far richer, far more complex than the public had ever imagined. Yet, beyond the media frenzy, the story itself was far from simple. Bai Lu's husband had not only shielded her from gossip but had also quietly navigated a world that demanded perfection and constant performance. Together, they had created a fragile equilibrium, balancing public appearances, work commitments, and the emotional intimacy that only they shared. Every handshake, every smile for the camera, every public moment had been carefully measured, a silent dance that preserved their secret while allowing Bai Lu to shine. And now, that delicate balance was shattered. The revelation brought not only attention but also questions. How had they managed this for so long? How did they maintain privacy in an industry where secrets are currency? What did this mean for Bai Lu's future projects, for her public image, and for the fans who had followed her journey faithfully? Yet amid these questions, one truth remained undeniable: their bond had endured, and it had emerged stronger. In the days that followed the reveal, Bai Lu and her husband were seen together in carefully captured moments: a quiet dinner in a secluded restaurant, a stroll in the early morning light, a whispered conversation at a private airport lounge. These glimpses were enough to captivate fans anew, fueling conversations, theories, and speculation. But behind every public appearance, the story of trust, secrecy, and shared life grew deeper, more intricate, and infinitely more fascinating. Bai Lu herself reflected on the journey. The pressures of fame, the constant spotlight, and the endless scrutiny had been challenging. Yet through it all, she had remained steadfast in her love, in her desire to protect the most important part of her life. This revelation, though sudden, was not a moment of vulnerability. It was a moment of courage, a declaration that her life and her love could withstand the judgment and curiosity of the world. Finally, the world began to see the narrative unfold as Bai Lu and her husband addressed the cameras together. Their voices carried confidence, unity, and sincerity. "We are grateful for the support," Bai Lu said. "The speculation, the curiosity, it all comes with the life we lead, and yet what matters most is the respect, trust, and love we share. Our story is ours, and while now it is shared publicly, the strength of what we have built together cannot be undone." Her husband spoke briefly, his tone firm yet gentle. "What matters is not what the public knows, but what we hold in our hearts. Our bond, forged in private and strengthened through challenges, is unshakable. We are together, and nothing can change that." The cameras finally stopped flashing, but the story was far from over. Fans, still mesmerized by the reveal, continued to dissect every detail, every glance, every smile. Yet, in the quiet aftermath, Bai Lu and her husband remained steadfast, their connection deeper than any headline, stronger than any speculation. The world had seen the truth, but only those closest to them understood the depth, the patience, and the extraordinary journey that led to this moment. Secrets had been revealed, the intrigue had peaked, and the story of Bai Lu and her husband had become one of the most talked about dramas in the history of C-drama fandom. And while the public celebrated the reveal, the real story, the story of enduring love, trust, and resilience, would continue quietly, profoundly, and powerfully, just as it had been for years. For those watching, this revelation was only the beginning. And the chapters yet to come would prove that some truths, once uncovered, have the power to transform everything.